and we can hear you.
Excellent. Appreciate that.
I'll put
Welcome,
myself back
everybody.
on mute.
Yes, please do. And until you need to unmute to talk. Welcome, everybody. Today's session is Mixed Bytes. If you have questions during the presentation, if you look at the top of your Teams toolbar, there is a Q&A window. So just put all your questions in there. Or if you don't see the Q&A window, put them in the chat window. Marty and I will be around after the presentation to answer any questions you have. My name is Gina Thomas. I'm the training manager at C&K Systems, and your hostess for Training Bytes, a digestible approach to counterpoint training. And joining me today is my trusty sidekick, Marty Katz, who's a project lead here at C&K Systems.
Good morning, everybody.
And thanks for joining us, Marty. Most of you have a splash screen when you launch Counterpoint that's super boring because it's just a picture of a PC. So there is a way you can change that. I'll show you that today. A lot of questions I get throughout the course of the year are, how do I change an inventory item into non-inventory? Or how do I change a non-inventory item into inventory? So we'll talk about that. Something that a lot of people don't realize is that you can actually print your price tags, your labels, from posted documents after you've posted. Let's say you're posting and receiving, you get prompted to print the labels and you're out of stock, so you have to say no. There's actually a place you can go after the fact to print your labels. And we'll see that today too. Another common question I get is, what is the difference between a return and a validated return? I'll also show you how to offer discounts for customers paying with cash. I've seen a lot of chatter about people starting to charge surcharges on credit cards, and I will tell you that's a lot of work. So if you just offer a cash discount, it's half the work. Something that is overlooked, I think, a lot in Counterpoint is managing your drawers from drawer management. So we'll take a look at that and a few other things too. I've got quite a bit to talk about. But mainly, I'm going to teach you how to change your splash screen. We'll talk about some inventory topics like changing your item type, and also some point of sale topics like configuring that cash discount and drawer management. So this is the default splash screen. Like I said, pretty boring. If you want to change it, it's pretty easy. You need to create a file, WordPad or Notepad, either one is fine, and you have to name it controloptions.ini and put it in the top level Counterpoint directory. And then in that file, you're going to type vertical market in brackets, no spaces, and under that, market equals something. And that value can be garden, it can be gift shop, museum, retail, sporting goods, liquor, and market. And here's what they look like. So here's the garden one, so pretty. Here's the gift one, a little more exciting. This one is the one for museum or attractions. This is retail on the right. This is sporting goods on the upper left, wine and spirits on the lower right, and finally, market. So those are your choices. To change item types, just in general, the item on hand available has to be 0 at all locations before you can make the change. And then you'll remove inventory records, which I'll show you how to do. After you remove the inventory records, you'll be able to change the item type, and then you'll need to rebuild the inventory records so you can sell and report on the item. So there's a place in Counterpoint under inventory called labels from tags. So every time you post a purchase request and it becomes a purchase order, you post a receiver or a transfer, or you do a quick assembly, or you implement a price sheet, a copy of that will be stored in labels from tags. Configuring cash discounts is pretty easy. Under point of sale, discount codes, you'll just create a discount code, call it something like cash discount. You can specify a percentage and then create a touchscreen button at point of sale to touch that button to give the customer a discount for paying in cash. And so here's an image of the button I configured in my touchscreen designer to offer the cash discount. So return line versus validated return. Visually, a validated return on the screen is going to be darker red than a return line, but that's just a visual difference. The real difference between them is that a validated return will look for the original transaction, knows what the customer originally paid, and if the customer paid with a credit card, using a validated return will prompt Counterpoint and you to credit the original credit card, which is pretty handy. One thing you do need to know about validated returns is they cannot be voided. That's very important. If you do a return line type of transaction and you make a mistake, you can just go ahead and void the old ticket. You cannot void validated returns. Okay, drawer management, this is a great one-stop shop just to get a bird's eye view of the status your drawers are in. So if you look at the top half of my screen, there's an active drawer, a counted drawer. Inactive means posted and closed. Reconciled, is the second step in posting or second step in closing for most of you. And on the bottom half of the screen, it even gives you a little audit trail. So it's nice and handy. And you can do a drawer reading from here as well. Okay, well, let's go into the software and take a look at all of this. Okay, so first I'm going to show you how to change the splash screen. In order to change the splash screen, the file that you create has got to be placed in your top level directory. And so you might say, well, where's my top level directory? Well, you can find out by going to System, Views, View Environment Settings, and right here on the Identification tab, about halfway down, top level directory. So on my install, it's on my C drive, Program Files, Radiant Systems, Counterpoint, CPSQL 186 is mine, and top level. So that's how you figure out where your top level directory is. Now, the next thing you're going to do is open up Notepad or WordPad. So I'm just going to come down here to my little Windows search, and I'm just going to type Notepad. That's pretty easy. And open it up. And I already created a file here, but normally this is just blank, right? This is what it looks like. So you do a bracket, vertical market, another bracket, and then market equals, and we'll do retail. Now, once you're done with that, so that's really easy. You're just going to go to File, Save As. You're going to name the file. So here's the file name line here. You're going to call it control options.ini. And then I just use this little drop down and I say all files. Now I need to place this in my top level directory. So for me, that was on my C drive. And then it's program files 86. And then it was Radiant Systems. It's a long way to go. Counterpoint. I've got a lot of installs here. You'll normally only see one. So I'm going to go to my install. Then I'm going to go to top level. And now I'm going to save the control options.ini. And now I'm going to restart Counterpoint so you can see that I no longer have the boring old splash screen. And so there's my retail splash screen. I'll just go ahead and sign in. See if I remember my password. I do, which is great. So the next thing I want to show you is how to change an item type from inventory to non-inventory or non-inventory to inventory. So I'm just going to go into inventory items and select an item. And in this case, I'm going to select my Bic gel pen that's black. So the first thing you want to do is make sure your quantity on hand, quantity available are 0. If you have more than one store, Remember, this is a company value. So you'll want to zoom in on the item and make sure all of your locations are at 0 for on hand available. If you do have a quantity on hand or available, positive or negative, you need to do an inventory adjustment to bring it to 0. So once you have 0 on hand, 0 available, you're going to delete the tables that hold the quantity. And to do that, you're going to come down here to inventory, this little box in the lower left-hand corner. And then, usually when you go in there, it looks like this. You get the single page view. I like to go into the table view to do this. And I'm going to hold down my I'm going to do a bulk delete. So I'm going to hold down my shift key, my down arrow. You can see all the lines are getting highlighted. And then I'm going to delete. Now remember, I'm not deleting the item. I'm just deleting the table that holds quantities. So I'm going to delete this. Goodbye. It's giving me a warning. Are you sure? Yes, I am. So now all my tables are gone. So I'm going to exit here. Now, sometimes when I go to change the item type, it doesn't give me all these choices. Now I'm getting it because I'm just lucky today. But if you don't see the choices when you go into the dropdown, just come here and hit your refresh. And then you'll be able to come here, choose the inventory or non-inventory, whatever you're changing it to. And then you're going to, this is important, you need to save. And then you need to rebuild the inventory records. If you don't rebuild the inventory records, you will not be able to sell the item. So, and that's simple. I'm going to come down here to inventory. And I'm just going to go back to my single page view because then I can see this button called Create Inventory. So you don't see that in the table view. You have to be in the single page view. So I'm going to create inventory. I'm going to do it for all locations. So all locations can now sell this item and it's done. Pretty simple. Okay, I talked about labels from tags. So if you want to be able to print from posted receivers, posted purchase requests that are now purchase orders, or transfers, you need to check some controls. So there's an inventory control and there's a purchasing control you need to check. So if I go to Setup, Inventory, Inventory Control, and then I'm going to go to the Labels tab, and it's these statements down here. Transfer out tags, transfer in tags method. So the method can be anything except this. Do not create tags. That means when I post a transfer out, it's done. I can never go print labels from it at a later date. But any one of these 3 settings will work. So that's inventory control. I'm just going to save my changes there. There's also a purchasing control. So setup, purchasing, purchasing control. Again, I'm going to go to labels and it's these 3 statements. So it can be anything except do not create tags. So now when I go to inventory and I go to labels from tags, this is what the screen looks like. And what I need to do is select an event. Now, if you're not familiar with that term, if you ever watch posting, at the end of posting, you get an event number. And that's how the documents are arranged here by event number. But a limitation of this lookup is it's just giving you the event number. There's no document number. There is no item detail. So I'll show you a way around that. So I know I want to print my tags from a purchase order. And I've got several purchase orders here, but I'm not sure what items are on these purchase orders. So if I just select a purchase order and click OK, and then I come down here to my purchase order lookup, there's all my purchase orders, and then I can pick one and zoom in on it to see the items that were on that PO. So if I select this event, it'll print labels for these items. Now receiving is a little trickier. If I want to print from a receiving, again, I want to see what items are on this receiving, because I did several receivings. I would just select one, go into my receiving lookup, and notice there's no zoom here, it's grayed out. However, if you go into your column designer, so right-click column designer, you can add item number to your visible columns. So when I look down at this list, I can see this receiving had these 3 items. Transfer outs and transfer ins kind of work like the purchasing. So if I go to a transfer out or a transfer in, it's going to be the same behavior. Again, I'm going to come down to a lookup. I'm going to find a transfer that I want to see the item detail, and I'm just going to zoom in on it. After a while, everything's history, right? Every time you post, it becomes history. So after a while, this event lookup might get really cluttered. You might have stuff going back to 2018 or 2019, and then you have to filter or sort this list to get to the document that you want. So you can actually purge these so they're no longer here. A couple ways. You could, at the point of printing the labels, you could tell Counterpoint, purge this event out of the list once the labels have been printed. But a lot of people miss this switch. So there is a way to kind of bulk delete these old events out of that list. So if you go to inventory, utilities, purge tags, and purge, purge, it's a purge, it's going to disappear. Can't bring it back. Once you purge, it's gone. But I'm just going to say, purge any printed tags printed before, let's say May 1st, because I don't need everything from January, February, March, and April at this point. And then if, maybe I didn't print any tags, but I still have that event in the list. So I'm just going to give it the same date, just anything before May the 1st. And then I'll just click on purge. And there you go. 5 events were purged. So now when I go into my labels from tags and I go into the event lookup, everything from April is now gone. So you can see I just have everything from May on. Okay, cash discounts. Much easier than charging a surcharge on credit cards. If you do go the surcharge route, understand you have to notify your bank 30 days in advance. You have to have signage up all over the store warning people about the surcharge, and there has to be verbiage on your receipt about the surcharge. So it's a lot of work. And here's something a lot of merchants don't realize, and I see this being violated all the time. You cannot charge a surcharge on debit cards. That's a hard and fast rule from the credit card companies. And I see people charging surcharges on debit cards all the time. So instead of that, a lot of work, how about just setting up a cash discount? It's super easy. So if you go to Setup, Point of Sale, Discount Codes, and I'm just going to go to my single page view here. I'm going to click on the plus sign to make a new discount code. And all I'm going to do on the discount code line is free type what I want this to be called. Now, you're limited to 10 characters there, so you'll have to abbreviate. But when I press my enter key, I can spell it out. Then the discount type. We just want it to be a static percentage. A prompted percent means somebody can decide on the fly. So if you want to make it static by selecting percent, and then you'll put a percent here. So I'm going to give a 3% discount. There's even a minimum qualifying amount. Probably don't need that for a cash discount, but for other discounts, you can do a qualifying minimum. So now I'm going to save. And the next step is to create a button at point of sale so my people can access the cash discount. So that's easy. If you're going to go into your designer, set up point of sale, touchscreen codes. I'm using the combo design. I'll go to my button editor. I'm just going to pick a blank square, something that's not populated. And then I'm going to come here to action. So I'm here on my buttons tab. I'm going to use the action enter document discount. Just press an E on my keyboard. So here's enter document discount. Then I'm going to give it a caption, cash discount. And then I'm going to give it a color to make it nice and fancy. And then down here where it says discount code, I'm just going to go into the lookup and I'm going to select my cash discount. And now I'm going to preview to see what it looks like. It looks beautiful. So now when my people click on that, it'll take 3% off the entire transaction. Okay, drawer management. Let's talk about that. I see this overlooked quite a bit. Not everybody has access to drawer management by default. So like your point of sale group probably doesn't have access to it. Maybe your manager group does. Definitely your sysadmins do. So if you go home, and I'm going to go to point of sale and drawers, and here we have drawer management over here. Now, if you have more than one store, you can use this lookup to view your other stores. You know, maybe it's first thing in the morning and you want to make sure all your stores are open and active for the day. So if you see a status of active, it means the drawer has been open and it's ready for sales. Of course, if you see counted, it means somebody did the first step in the closing routine, which is typically a count. Reconciled is the second step in the closing routine. And you can see here there's a nice little audit trail. And if you want to do a drawer reading, you know, how am I doing in sales so far in this active drawer? You can just come over here to drawer reading. There's nothing fancy you need to do with the filters. Just click on preview. And you can get a drawer reading for that one single drawer. Another nice thing about drawer management is you can actually do your entire opening and closing routine at the drawer level from here. So if I click on active, I can come over here and count, and I can reconcile, and I can post. I'm going to go ahead and post this drawer here. So now you can see it's inactive. And when a drawer is inactive and you come into drawer management, you can come here to activate it. So like I said, just a nice one-stop shop. Monitor all your stores, make sure they're open, and see what status the drawer is in, or even complete opening and closing routines. Okay, let's go into point of sale and we'll look at that cash discount, returns, and a little trick about gridded items in case you sell apparel. So I'm going to go point of sale, and I'm going to come here and go to touchscreen. I'm going to put some items on this ticket. Oh, I see you're paying with cash. Let me give you a cash discount. So I'm just going to come over here to my cash discount button. And there you go. You can see down here, my document discount was 3% of the sale. And I'm just going to go ahead and void this ticket, or maybe I'll just cash it out. So if you do sell gridded items, I'm going to go into my lookup and find a gridded item. So I have a gridded item in here called shirt, right? And you can see I have 129 available, but I don't know how many of each color and size. So if I select this, I get this little box here. Now, normally when I'm selling the shirt, I would have to pick, you know, from each dimension if you don't barcode your items or your gridded items. But if I want to see the on hand for each color and size, I can just go into this lookup. And you can see I get a list with the color, the size, and how many are available. And I can even select from this list rather than, selecting a dimension from each box. Another way you can see on hand at the color and size level, it's a little bit of clicking, but it's doable. If you find the item in inventory and zoom in on it, and then you come up here to view grid, then you can see your on hands for each color and size and at each location. So that's just handy to know for gridded items. Let's talk about returns. So there's validated return. Let me finish off this sale here. Cash you out. Goodbye. So there's validated return and return. If you select return, this is a sale line, it's green. If I select return, it turns the line red. So now it's going to be return. And I just select the item. Let's go ahead and let's return a pretzel. And of course, you're going to put in a return reason code and then click OK. So pretty easy, pretty straightforward. But what I always say about the return item is it's dumb. It doesn't know what the customer originally paid. It doesn't know if the customer originally paid with a credit card. So when you select the item with a return line, whatever the current price of that item is what Counterpoint's going to want to return it for. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and cash that out. And if I made a mistake with that return item, I can always void that transaction. So here's my return item, and I can void it and then redo the transaction. Now, a validated return is going to cost you a few clicks, but I always say it's smart because the validated return knows what the customer originally paid for the item. And if they paid with a credit card, the validated return knows that and will suggest crediting that credit card. So I'm going to click on validated return and I come to a filter. And there's a find document lookup here. So I'm going to click on this lookup. And here's where I can tell Counterpoint to show me transactions that I'm going to return against. Now, right now, it's just set to look at all transactions created at my main since May the 6th. And if I'm not capturing customer information, when I go to find tickets, I'm going to get quite a few transactions. So something you can do, if you happen to know the original transaction was, at the beginning of the week or the, the end of last month, you could just put in a more narrow date range. If you're tracking customers, it makes your life a lot easier because then you can select a customer, you can find tickets, and you will only see let me put in a date here. So in this example, transactions created for that customer since the beginning of the year. When you're looking at this screen, there is no item detail. So if you want to see what's on the ticket, you can actually view the ticket by clicking on View Ticket. You can go to line/total to see what was on the ticket and payments to see how it was paid for. Another method is to select the item that's being returned. And this is a little bit, I'm not fond of it because if it's a popular item, when you go to find tickets, you're going to see a whole bunch of tickets. And if you're not tracking customers, how do you determine, which ticket to use for the return? But again, you can figure it out. Oh, here's a nice big sale just by going to, highlighting the ticket, click on View Ticket, go to Lines Total, and then you can see. But I'm going to go ahead and do a return for my friend Bill Baker. My tickets, and I'm going to actually return against this ticket. So when you find the ticket that you want to return against, you're going to highlight the ticket, click OK, and then Counterpoint's going to take you to a return screen where you can select the item that's being returned. So you might see multiple items on this screen, but maybe they're only returning one or two of those items. So you just select it, It's going to default to a quantity of 1 to return. If you try to change it to more than was originally purchased, like let's say you change it to 2, this is what Counterpoint's going to tell you. Nope, sorry, they only bought 1 on this transaction. You can only return 1. The return reason code, you can use this drop down and select whatever you like, and then click OK. So now here we've got our return. I'm going to go ahead and cash it out, and it's done. But remember, there's a gotcha. And the gotcha is if you make a mistake on that validated return, you can't void it. So if I go to ticket functions and void old ticket, and I click on void this ticket, that's what I get. Well, I can't do it. So if you do make a mistake on a validated return, you'll have to do a sale to offset it and then redo the validated return. Okay, so next, something I see overlooked quite a bit is the use of margins. Margins are assigned at the category or subcategory level. And if you have margins assigned to your categories or your subcategories, you get a wonderful visual benefit. And I'm going to show you what that is. So I'm going to go to inventory and items. I'm going to go to my table view. And so this is what happens when you set margins. You get these arrows. And so it's really nice at a glance information where a green arrow is basically saying, you know what, this item is meeting your minimum margin or even your target margin. A red arrow means it's not meeting the minimum, and a dash means it's just meeting the minimum. So how do you know that? Well, if you actually hover over the arrow, you can see I'm getting 29% margin on this item. My minimum for the category is 50. And so obviously at 29, I'm not meeting the minimum. So it's like, boo, you get the down arrow. Now, if I go to a green arrow and hover, you can see I'm getting 80% margin, go me, on this hat. My minimum is 50, so I'm definitely meeting the minimum. And my target's 65. But because I'm meeting or exceeding the target, I get a green arrow. A dash means you're just meeting the minimum. So my margin's 50, my minimum is 50. I am meeting that minimum of 50, not hitting the target of 65, so therefore I get a dash. Another nice thing about using margins is you can get suggestions from Counterpoint of what the retail price should be based on the margin. Now you can either do that here in the table view by just clicking on the arrow. So you can see here, let's pick a different one. Let's pick this guy. So you can see here, the minimum is 50%. So if you really want to meet the minimum margin, you should be charging this price. Your target is 65. So if you want to meet that margin, this is what your price should be. But right now, you're getting 29% margin because you're charging this. And you can tell Counterpoint to use whatever price that you want by clicking on the Use This Price button, or you can just come in here and manually change it. I'll change it to 170. And now I'm meeting at least the minimum. So 60, I'm just shy of the target. If you're in the single page view, you can actually click on the arrow right here and get the same results. Oh, well, bad item. Let's pick a different item. That's a non-inventory item, so it doesn't care about margins. Okay, so here you can see I'm charging $40, so I'm only getting 43% margin. But if I really want to hit my target of 70, this is the price I should be charging. I can click Use This Price, or I can just come in here and edit the price. And now I'm meeting or exceeding the target. So how do you set these margins? It's super easy, and you can change your mind about them. You know, maybe you set a margin one day and you think it's a little too aggressive or not aggressive enough. Just go change it. You're not making any structural changes to the database. The only thing that you're changing is this visual. That's all you're changing. So here's how you set up a margin. You go to setup, and then you go to inventory, And then you go to margins or categories, sorry. And I'm just going to choose a category. Now, there's a lot of noise on this page. All you care about is price one minimum and target. It's all you care about. It's all Counterpoint cares about for the visual. So it's just price one minimum or target. Price one minimum and target. That's it. Now, let's say you have an apparel category. And in general, you want a 50% minimum and a 60% target, except when it comes to men's. Men's, you want something a little bit higher or lower. So you can attach a margin to a subcategory, and the margin for the subcategory would supersede the category margin. And it's, pretty much the same. You only care about price one minimum and target. That's it. And then just save. And like I said, let's say you do set that margin and you say, wow, that was just way too aggressive. So you can just come back and visit the subcategory and say, 50% is way too aggressive. Maybe 45% is a little more realistic. And that target of 65, forget it, maybe 55. But again, really nice way at a glance to see or analyze, your red arrows in particular. Maybe you're not charging enough. Maybe you're paying the vendor too much and you need to renegotiate. A lot of times we might ask you what version of Counterpoint you're running, or we might send an email saying, version XYZ is soon to be released, and maybe it's time to upgrade. And so obviously we're going to need to know what your current version is. A couple ways you can check it. You can come up here to the upper left-hand corner where you see the Counterpoint icon and just click on it, just a left click, and then go to About Counterpoint. So you can see I'm running version 8.6.0, but I've got some patches installed. So technically I'm running 8.6.0.2. That's one way to check the version. Another way is just to right click on the title bar, just a right click, and About Counterpoint, you get the same window. Something that I'd like to point out in any lookup anywhere in Counterpoint, I'm just going to go to my table view here. When you go into a lookup, you can see here I've got an additional description 1 in my lookup, an item something, and I need to enlarge it, right? So I can see the whole thing. But it takes up a lot of real estate on the screen. And maybe you want to see more information without making the screen, like hugely large like this, right? So you can save a little space by going into your column designer, options, column designer, or right click column designer. And you can go to this grid options tab and you can check multi-line column headings. And here's what that allows you to do. You can shrink this to save some space and see how it says item category in 2 lines. And then I'll go to the additional description 1 and shrink it down. And there you go. Now, if you do make that change, make sure you go to options and you save that change. Another nice thing to know about your column designer in particular, looking at this screen, and if I preview, let's say I want a little quick report out of this and I preview it. See how things are off center? Like my item category is kind of crashing into my price one, and my price one, the column header is left justified, but the data is right justified. You can actually fix that. And the reason why it's all off center is because it's off center in here. When you're looking at this view, that column header is left justified, but the data is right justified. So to kind of make it pretty, again, if you go into your column designer, so options column designer, right click column designer, you're going to go to column options, highlight what you want to change. So you've got a title and you've got data. So I want my column header to be center justified. I want my data to be center justified. And I'm going to do the same thing with my price. I'm going to center justify it. And let's do the same thing with my additional description 1. Why not? So now when you look on the screen, it's much prettier. And when you run the report or you preview, it's also much prettier. And again, anytime you're in your column design or doing anything and you want it to be a permanent change, you must go to options and save it. A question I get a lot is, I want a list of all my vendors and the items they carry. And there's a really simple way to do that. If you go to purchasing and then vendor items, you can go to your table view, you can go to your lookup, doesn't matter. But you can see here, I'm going to sort this by item number. Oh, here it already is. Or not. Let me sort this. Okay, so here's an item, my ADM VMI, but I get it from 2 different vendors. So this is just a really nice list of show me my vendors and the items that they carry. And then if you want to export this, just like in any table view, if you right click and go to export data, Counterpoint will send it to a CSV file, and it'll actually prompt you to give it a name and ask you where you want to save it to. If you look at it through a lookup, same thing. You can see the vendor, the items that they carry, and you can right click and export the data. And again, it'll go right to CSV. Counterpoint and say, what's the name and where do you want to save it? Okay, I think that's just about everything I had on my list. I'm just double checking my list, looking at it twice. Okay, let's go back to the slide deck. And we'll go from the current slide. So hopefully you learned a couple of things today, like, changing your splash screen or how to change the inventory type flag on your items, and maybe drawer management. Make your life a little bit easier for opening and closing and drawer readings. Friday, you'll get a link to the video and all previous recordings. There will also be a survey. We'd love to know how we did. Any topic suggestions, we appreciate your feedback. Or if you just want to fill out the survey today, go to our website, www.cksystem.com/training bytes survey. You can remain anonymous, by the way. But if you put your name on the survey and you have a question, I will contact you and answer your question. Okay, July 10th, this is Marty's time to shine because Marty, you're going to be presenting on July the 10th. And Marty's going to talk about a really nice topic called custom maintenance forms. So what is a custom maintenance form? When you're on point of sale and you go to add a customer, a new customer, most of you probably get the full blown customer record with the 6 tabs on it. And you just don't need that. So what Marty's going to show you how to do is how to simplify or use a simplified form, even modify it to have fields that you want, so that when you do go to add that new customer, you're not getting 6 tabs of information to look at. The same thing with items. If you're in a purchasing document or a receiving document and you go to add a new item, you get the full-blown item record in most cases. But there is a way to get a simple form so you don't get that form with the 6 tabs on it. Okay, so that's going to be very exciting. So don't forget to reserve your spot again, July the 10th. And if you want training tailored to your business, I do get a lot of requests, but the requests I get for Training Bytes are too specific to that business. So it just doesn't appeal to a broader audience, which is what I try to do in these sessions. So if you do want tailored training, tailored to your business, your specific questions, give me a call. Main number extension 3, or you can email me at training@cksystem.com. And with that, Marty, let's check the Q&A. See what we have.
Okay, Gina, we have, oh, am I unmiked? Am I muted or unmuted?
You are unmuted, my friend.
Okay, so there were a couple of questions in the Q&A. We'll handle those first. Is there a way to limit a cash discount button to transactions that are actually cash transactions, not credit cards. Maybe merge the cash button somehow. And so, Gina, my thought on that was what we call the run page.
Oh, I didn't even think of that. I was just going to say, yeah, no.
Yeah, no. So,
yeah, no.
yeah. So what we can do is a run page is sort of a neat trick, and that only works in touchscreen. If you're using simple regular ticket entry, it won't work. And I know we don't have a lot of those, but we do have a few. But anyway, if you call us, we can help you set up a run page. We'll cover it under your support contract if it's not incredibly complicated. But for something like this, and a run page is you hit a button and it takes you to a page that flashes on the screen so fast you can't see it. And what it does is it presses all the buttons in a row and then moves on to the next screen. So in this case, we'd have that discount button and then the cash payment button. And so it would take you to just as if you had hit the cash button without anything else. So it's a pretty
that's a really good idea. I didn't even think of that.
It's a pretty slick trick in touchscreen.
Huh,
And then
yeah,
Kelly.
and so, Oh, go ahead. Good.
No, I was going to go to the. So anyway, Kelly, if you want to set up something like that, let us know. We'll be glad to help you.
Yeah, it looks like Kelly asked a question a little bit earlier than that about column designing. Column designs are not computer or station specific. When you do a column design, everyone can see it. All your stations.
Okay, hold on a second. I didn't see that. Oh, so actually that's more recent, and we missed an earlier one. So Kelly had lots of questions today.
Okay, well, let's
So
go on to the
column
next one.
designing in the item lookup, is there a way to format the columns for all POS stations at once? Well, you could save it as a default on the column designing. No, yeah, we can save it as a default, and that should work for everybody. And again, if you have trouble with that, let us know. We'll be glad to show that to you. And then for printing tags from receivings, is there a way to select the individual items to print? And the answer is yes. It's on the bottom of the screen. And Gina, do you have that queued up somewhere?
I'm gonna show you how, Kelly. So I'm just gonna go into my labels from tags, and then I'll select an event. Let's say my purchase order event. And then down here in the filter, you can filter for specific items. And I'll show you a little trick with filters, and this is true of any filter anywhere in Counterpoint. By default, you have a number range, item number X to item number X. But maybe you have 20 or 30 things on this PO, and you only want to print labels for 3 or 4 or 5 of them. If you right-click and customize your filter, and you change this parameter to is in, I'm going to simplify it. Now I can pick up to 3 random items to print items for. Maybe I have 4 or 5 random items. So I'm just going to go back into my filter design. I'm going to select item number on the next line. I'm going to make my parameter is in, and then you've got to go to the line above and change your Boolean logic from and to or. And now I can select up to 6 random items. Okay, good question.
All right. And then we had one question in the Q&A, no, in the chat, sorry. If we have a guest who pays with a debit card and on the same day needs a return, we cannot do a return or validated return directly.
Correct.
We won't let it. Well,
same day.
It'll let you can do a validated return, but then there comes the next part, the payment.
Oh, thank you.
The payment, you can't return to a credit card on the same day that the sale takes place. So if it's a credit transaction, not a debit transaction, you can do it the next day. It'll offer to put it back on the credit card. If it's a debit transaction or if it's a same day transaction, doesn't matter if it's credit or debit, it won't offer to put it back on that card because, and it'll say on the screen, you have to wait a day. So I think perhaps y'all are missing a step on that validated return there, Kim. But it should be, you should be able to do a validated return even on the same day, just you'll have to put in the credit card again. Is that, oh, there we go. You're welcome.
Yeah. And it looks like we got a couple more questions in the Q&A.
Okay, back over there. Fun stuff. Oh no, I think we got them. Did we hit all of Kelly's?
Yeah, I thought I saw some from Ken in here. Oh, that's from January 17th.
Old.
Yeah, those are old.
Those are old.
Yep. Okay. Did we answer? Yeah, these select items to print. Yeah, we answered those. Yeah, I think we got them all.
Okay, and Kelly says we got all of his too.
Excellent. Okay.
Gina, I want you to know you taught me something today.
Shut up. What did I teach you?
20-something years doing Counterpoint, and I did not know that you could wrap the column headers.
Oh, stop it. You didn't know that?
I did not know that.
Oh, I'm so flattered. I taught you something today.
There's always, just when you think you know everything.
I'm always surprised that, in working with clients, they'll show me something and I'll be like, I did not know that. I love that.
So keep coming back to these training bites, because even if we cover the same topic, you might learn something new.
Yeah, you never know. Or at least sign up. I get a lot of people that say, I can't attend because I'm busy that day. But you have to sign up anyway, because if you sign up, you'll get a link to the recording. If you don't sign up, you won't get the link. So even if you can't attend, sign up anyway.
Okay, Jonathan asked us a question. Is there a way to change the splash screen specifically for training mode? And I'm thinking that there's not, because
yeah, it's a top level file.
It's a top level, not a company setting.
That would be a really cool thing if we could do that, though.
Wouldn't it be nice?
Yeah, that would, because that'd be a nice visual.
Training.
Yeah, exactly. No, good suggestion, Jonathan.
We'll submit that to NCR, and they'll put it in version 9.
Right.
And let's see another new question. Oh yeah, Jonathan agrees. It would be great. So we will submit that to NCR as a suggestion, because I think it's a really cool suggestion.
It is. I like it. I wish I'd thought of it.
Well, again, that's why we have these, because there's so much to do, and it's so flexible. And then we get to, well, why isn't this working right? But or how can we improve on this? And I do enjoy that about the software, because 20-something years into this, and I learned something new today. So.
Well, good. Okay.
Any other questions?
Yeah. Any other questions?
Going
and
once?
And if you really enjoyed this session, we have another one at 1 o'clock.
We'll be back.
Yes, we will.
For the Gina and Marty show.
There you go. Okay, everyone, thank you so much for your time today. Hope to see you in July.
Oh, one more.
Oh, we do?
I changed the color of the mandatory field for practice. That's a nice visual cue.
That is a good idea.
Didn't think of that, Christine. Again, these people, they come up with great ideas, don't they?
Oh yeah, I think that's a really great idea. Huh. Yeah, because in the live database it could be green, but in practice it could be blue or red.
Yeah.
Which stand out. Yeah, and for anyone that doesn't know what Christine is talking about, it's a user preference. A user preference. Am I right about that? It is user preference, right?
Is it? User.
Oh, let
Okay,
me
it's
see.
Dump the Tech Day.
No, I think it's a user preference.
Let me take a quick look. You, you and I are both like, no, 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 no,
No,
no,
it's
no.
not a user preference. Christine, where did we set that? I forget off the top of my head. It's got to be some kind of control. Inventory control.
No, it's going to be a company setting
Oh, that like a
because
store
it
setting
has to
maybe.
be. Hold a second. Yes, it is a company setting.
Let's go take a look.
Christine just said yes, it is. So I don't know where what. Let's go to the other tab.
I'm on the other tab.
I don't see it there. Gotta be.
Oh, I know what the setting looks like. I just don't know where it is.
Christine, can you give us a hint?
I'm guessing it's a store setting.
Because it's got to be above that. A second. Oh, she says it's a user preference, and maybe we missed it.
Oh, okay. So I was right to begin with. That's what I thought off the top of my head.
Oh, on the user interface, underneath the red. There you go. Yours is blue, retired.
Oh, yeah. You know what? I looked right past that. So it's this one here. So it is a user preference. Yay. So anyone that's going to access practice, you would need to change that preference. In practice, go to the user preference and change its color.
All
And
right.
that'll make
Thank
your
you,
required fields a
Christine.
different color. Yes, thank you, Christine. And again, a really good idea.
So yeah, we have a script that we run when we set up a practice company. So we could actually add that to our script
Oh, that's a good idea too. Yeah.
so that it stands out. All
Okay.
right. Well,
Good session, Marty.
good session, Gina. Good session with all of our helpful people watching who even hung around to watch us struggle with
It's a
Christine.
preference.
Thank you so much. See some of you this
Okay.
afternoon, maybe, and if not, in July, where I will be presenting custom maintenance forms.
Yay. Okay. Bye, everybody. Marty, I'll see you at 1.
Bye bye.